I know.
It's contagious.
Been added,
That's not
yeah.
cool at all.
What's that?
I said, what had been added?
Nothing. She just makes a copy in case people don't bring their packet.
The revised edition is what we gotta
There
vote.
was one meeting that someone didn't bring a packet, or I don't know, and I had to make copies, and I said, just make a copy from now on, just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah.
It's got four.
My pal Chris Moran has been blowing my email and my phone up.
I'd like to bring this town council meeting to order, January 19th, 2016. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Twyla?
Counselor Albert,
Here.
Counselor Colby,
Here.
Counselor Ward,
Here.
Counselor McTevier,
Here.
Counselor Bickford,
Here.
Counselor Crafts,
Here.
Counselor Brunel,
Here.
Next item, Twyla.
is good news and recognition.
Got anything?
I'd like to thank the town voters for actually coming out and passing the school referendum and putting that piece of business behind us. Thank you.
That's what I was gonna say, so you said it. Good. Okay. Anybody? Not?
Is the public allowed to? Thank you. Dot Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls. Last Thursday evening, I had the privilege of attending the winter concert presented by the Lisbon Community School. It was a most enjoyable evening. 109 children participated. There is the string with the violins and all of that, the chorus, the beginning band. These are kids that have an opportunity to learn and enjoy music of all ages. It was just such an enjoyable evening. This is something that public schools have the opportunity to present to kids, and the town of Lisbon is fortunate enough. And then these kids go on to, a lot of them, to the middle school and to the high school to participate. Also, the school music department is having their mattress fundraiser. I don't know if anyone was going to mention that, and that will be Saturday, January 21st at the Lisbon High School gym. Anyway, it was a most enjoyable evening.
Thank you, Doc.
Kids all had a good time.
Good evening. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Joel Alex, and I'm a business owner here with Blue Ox Malthouse. We are a company that is connecting Maine agriculture and the Maine craft beverage industry through the production of malts, which is a grain ingredient. We moved into a space at 41 Capitol Avenue in Lisbon Falls, actually almost exactly a year ago. Spent last year building that facility out. And have been really excited to move to this area and be a part of the town and working with Tracy to be welcomed and to move in. I want to let you know that we are having a launch event in celebration of our facility, which we finished building out at the end of last year. This coming Friday, the 22nd, at open house to the public from 11 a.m. to 2 with a ceremony, ribbon cutting ceremony, and remarks at noon. Right now we are tentatively going to be joined by Senator King. I would welcome all of the town councilmen and all of the public here to join us for that. And if you're unable to join us on Friday, we are pretty much there all the time producing. So would welcome you to stop in and check out what we are about and what we are doing right here in Lisbon Falls. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See no one else? Next item, Charlie?
There are no public hearings. It would be audience participation and response for agenda items.
Seeing no one? Okay, I'll close that. Next item, Twyla.
Would be the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have an item removed may do so now. Seeing none. Order 2016-05 to approve the workshop minutes of January 5, 2016, the regular minutes of January 5, 2016 as revised, and to ratify the January 12, 2016 school budget referendum results.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept. I'll second.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0, none opposed.
Next item, Twyla.
Under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, Order 2016-06, an application to change voting locations.
Okay, before we can discuss this, I'm gonna I need a motion to bring it forward.
I'll make the motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Okay,
This
now
one.
we can have discussion.
This motion would be to set the public hearing and discuss the changing of polling locations, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Who made the motion? Eric
I did, yep.
and Dale Kraus. All right. Can I give you just a little background history on this, if you'd like? A couple of weeks ago, before the election, the superintendent of schools approached me to see if the town would be interested in consolidating polling places. The application before the council would start that process should the council wish to move in that direction. The Secretary of State's office had recommended we consolidate 3 or 4 years ago. It looks like it may be time to move into that direction now that we have a handicapped accessible gym at the Lisbon High School. And if you agree, you would need to schedule a public hearing to see if Lisbon citizens are also in favor of consolidating. The new site offers better parking, easier access, and a much larger space to use, which means most everyone will be able to stand inside in a line in the building during our busiest hours, maybe between 5 and 8 during the upcoming presidential election on November 1. If all goes well, with everyone's approval along the way through this process, we could be able to hold the June primary at this new location. Superintendent of Schools has notified us that school will be out, and so there would be no one, the students would be at school on the 14th of June. I think they get out on the 8th, but depending on snow days, how that works. I think that consolidating could save the town some money, especially in a school budget referendum like we currently had. The past one we had, we hired 8 employees at each location, and the ballot being the same type, we would have been able to hire just 8 employees in total, and because both ends of town were balloting on the same type of election. So it could save us some money in certain types of elections. I think we want to focus on informing the public well in advance. So that's why the requirement is that you hold a public hearing at least 90 days prior to that election. I believe the council would have time to hold this public hearing and even decide later if they wanted to on February 16 or March 1, which is still well in advance of the 90 days, which would be around March the 7th. A previous committee reviewed the consolidation efforts probably before each of your office time here in Lisbon. We looked at the LCS building at that time, the high school, and the Lisbon Falls Christian Academy. There were traffic concerns that were addressed by the police chief, David Brooks. I think at this point, some of the traffic concerns have alleviated themselves with the additional parking that we have now at the Lisbon High School. And the light should be a good thing to get voters in and out. And we have since added a better access route to the back of the building through Sug Middle and out through Public Works. Logistics were addressed at that time by the school's transportation department, which would now be Alan Ulat. And I noticed that the new facility has 2 gymnasium doors that exit, one into the atrium and one right outside the building. So it looks like the new facility is handicapped accessible, and the other previous older gymnasium was not. You had to use an elevator, enter the building in a certain location, and come to the gym. So all being aside, I think that you would find yourself not too much more expense. We already currently hire an officer to monitor polling activity, and I would continue to hire just the one instead of two to monitor the student safety. So it looks like it might be doable. We could check into this, but first we need to know if the council's ready to schedule that public hearing and to consider that change. I know the school board is on board with this. The superintendent has said that that looks good to them. And with the Secretary of State being on board, I think maybe now is the time.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do. If for some reason there was a lot of snow days and school was still going on during that June election, would that create a problem?
I don't think it would create much of a problem, but those are the things we would look into. I think some schools prefer to hold teacher workshops, and but where the school is supportive, I think those details would probably be ironed out by them,
Yep.
which would best support that.
I received an email, I know I inquired to Diane on the topic with a couple of different things: parking, notification, entry and access to the facility, but actually securing the high school. And Mr. Green was very much in support associated with this. He thought June was a good test run, hopeful that school wouldn't be open, but even if it was, the bigger goal here would be testing the grounds for the November, where the school would be open, and we would have to iron out that the gym would not be available in that after-school hours for that day to be able to make that happen. He assured me that it would be on the next property meeting that the facilities would actually have for the school to iron out some of those details well in advance.
Awesome.
So,
Do you want to vote to put it to
Yes, I think
Have a
that we're
public
ready
hearing.
to schedule the public hearing for February 2nd, and you can consider your application then or move it to the
Yep.
next meeting. But
need a
between now and
nomination
then.
for that?
Yeah, I make a motion that we go forward with it and schedule a public hearing.
And you had second that, so. All those
All
in
in favor?
favor? Order passed, 7-0. So we'll notify the school as well to
Yep.
be here to answer questions.
Yep, that'll be good. We held town meetings for years at the old one, so
Right.
I think this will be a lot better.
Oh, I do, yeah, I really do.
Okay, next item, Tweedle.
Order 2016-07, which is to set a public hearing date for the 2016 CDBG Micro Enterprise Assistance.
Tracy?
Good evening. As you know, I think it was December, last month, we had put in 2 letter of intents to DECD. We have received the thumbs up to move forward for our micro enterprise, which will be $150,000 for facade money. And within that, we basically got to go through the same process. So what I'm asking council to do is look at setting a public hearing date for, I think I had it March 1st.
Yep.
And then that would give us a second meeting in March to have the minutes and everything approved from the public hearing. And the application is due at the end of March. So we're trying to fit within that timeline when I can get everything in. If anybody has any questions about the grant.
Any questions? I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
And again, this is no matching dollars from the
Right.
town.
We like those. Yeah, those are my favorite.
Next item, Twyla.
Order 2016-08, the 2016 municipal budget schedule.
I put together the schedule on page 21 of your packet. This kind of mirrors last year's schedule with a couple of little changes. I spoke to Superintendent Green, and he would like to present to the council his budget on March 1st. And the following meeting, the second meeting in the month of March is when I would like to present the town's budget. I would not be ready by March 1st, and I think it's an awful lot in one night to hear a school budget and a municipal budget. So I think it's better if we have them separated.
Thank you.
And then I went and scheduled the workshops, just like I did last year, the same departments at the same time, and then I left open April 26th if needed. And on April 12th will be when I would present the capital improvement plan to council. As you recall, we had a charter change which says we have to present it to council and the planning board by May 1st. So I'll present it to council first, and then it can go to the planning board on April 28th. And on May 9th, again, in talking with Mr. Green, the school committee would adopt the school budget. And then on the very next night would be the school budget's public hearing at the LCS. And then the following council meeting would be when the council would adopt the budget. And then on June 7th would be the public hearing on the municipal budget. June 14th is the state election. So that's when we would have the school budget validation referendum. And then tentatively June 21st to adopt the municipal budget.
Any questions?
That's good.
I have to defer to you guys. I mean, you were sitting here last year, so what do you see for snafus?
It's worked all right for us,
Right.
you know.
We only had one little,
Yeah.
we just got that behind us, so.
Hopefully we won't be
Just
there
a-
again.
Five's a magic number, Chris.
Just a hiccup, just a hiccup.
Five's a magic.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion to accept this?
I think a motion to adopt it, and we can always change it as we go along if we see there's some issues with
Yep.
it, we can come back
I'll
and
make
change
that
it.
motion.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
7-0, approved.
Next item, Twyla?
Order 2016-09, the 2016 Wellness Grant.
In front of you is an application. If you recall back in the fall, we applied for a wellness grant for the last quarter of 2015.
It's on page 23.
Did I say the wrong page? Okay.
You said a page.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So what we want to do moving forward, starting with January through December, is to just apply once for the full amount that we could apply for instead of coming back each quarter. So that's what we're planning to do here, is to submit one application, apply for the maximum amount, which is $1,680, and then see what we get out of that. They probably would just give us quarterly payments, but we also have listed in the wellness grant some of the programs that we want to offer. And I think it's good that we do this for our employees, and we have, I think, 41 employees enrolled in the wellness program, so any grant funds would help us. So what we'd like is permission to apply for the grant in the amount of $1,680 and to accept those funds if we're successful in obtaining the grant.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
Sounds good.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Next item, Twyla.
Order 2016-10, Purchasing Policy Amendment.
On page 29 of the packet, we have some language here that deals with delinquent taxes and debts for people that the town does business with. So what this is going to do is to allow the tax collector to offset any funds if we're doing business with certain vendors that owe us money for delinquent taxes, primarily personal property tax. That when we do business with them, that we let them know up front that we are going to be offsetting the monies due them against the taxes. The personal property tax happens to be the issue here, and this has worked well in other communities. And there is a state statute under Title 36, subsection 905, that allows us to do this, subject to the approval of the municipal officers, and then we can do the offset. This also touches on bidders in the future. If they're going to bid on a project that they owe us tax, if they owe us taxes, we will let them know up front that if they're successful, that any monies that we pay them for the project will put towards their debt until it's paid in full. I included debt on here because there might be some other instances other than tax payments and sewer fees or water payments that are due, that we have an outstanding bill on that they haven't paid us, so that we can also include that. Attorney Stockford has looked at the language, and he sanctions this. In fact, he made some edits to what I had sent him. So I'm asking approval tonight to adopt this language.
I need a motion.
Make a motion that we accept it as presented.
Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I like the fact that it actually covers vendors and bidders, because you're only going to get so many through the bidders process. It should cover somebody that actually owes you funds, that they're notified that you will collect these funds. I would completely support this.
Can you change that? And
No, it's
it's
in
in
there.
there.
It's there.
It's in there, Roger.
okay.
Long overdue, I think.
And what I'll be doing is notifying the people that we do business with that are delinquent in taxes, letting them know that moving forward, this is what we're going to be doing. These are the vendors. The bidders will deal with at the bidding time, but
Right. Right. Gives you the power now to actually take care of it through the accounts payable.
right.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
Next item, 12.
Town managers report.
I came back to you a while back to discuss sewer foreclosures. We had 7 on the books, and you authorized me to give them an additional 30 days to redeem their property, which means they have to pay everything, all the taxes up so that they're current. I'm pleased to report that all 7 have paid in full, right up through the 2016.
Excellent.
So that's done. Today, we foreclosed on tax payment, delinquent taxes. I expect there to be 5 out of that list that will come back to you at the next meeting. I'm not sure. I'll have to check with Megan, because they had through 6 o'clock tonight to pay. But I believe we'll be dealing with 5 of those. And then I have a department head meeting tomorrow, and on our agenda is we're going to be discussing the budget process. So we're going to start in on the budget right off. That's all I have to report.
Okay, next item, 12.
Is the department head oral reports, assessing department?
Hello, I'm Kathy Malloy from the assessing office. You probably have a copy of my written report, which is pretty dry stuff. But my day up at Bill's was very productive. The lady he has working for him that enters all his stuff, she does the sketches. She's very, very good, and I picked up some time-saving hints from her, so that was very good. Bill was actually in last week. I feel much better about things after spending the day with him. We did what's called an extract. He took information from our TRIO database of owners, their mailing addresses, book and page reference, and exemptions. And he took the information from our database and overwrote it, what he had on his, because he started this 5 years ago, so he still had the owners as of 5 years ago. So now that's all updated. The commercial cost schedule, that's done. He's coming back next week, and we're going to go out and do the pickup work. We're going to, he's already done Dollar General, and we're going to go and get some of the, I think there are 4 new homes, and probably some of the bigger garages, and I think there's been a barn or two built. Yeah.
I don't believe that you three are up to speed about what this is about, or are you?
Reval,
Yes.
we're with you.
Bill Von Tynes?
We're with you.
Okay.
Thank
We're
you,
with you.
I just want to make sure,
No, I
because
appreciate
there are
that,
three new
Chris.
counselors down on the other end here that may not know about Bill, or
Appreciate
how
it.
long this has been going on, or any of that, so.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to
So
interrupt you.
it's
Nope.
Go ahead.
quite a process, but you'll be here for the fun part, when people get to see their new values.
It's a relative term. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, so next week he'll be back. We'll go out and do the pickup work, because we're trying to get as much stuff ready as we can for the end of February. He's going to be mailing out new value letters. It's going to be an estimate of value telling the taxpayer, this is what your new value is going to be. And if you have questions, or you disagree, or you want an explanation, they're going to set up, probably block 2 to 3 weeks of time for them to come in, sit down with them, they'll pull out their card, show them what they have. So we're trying to weed out any problems so that we don't end up with hundreds of abatements come tax time. So we want to get as many in problems and take care of them. I have reviewed so far 600 of their cards, and so far I have one that I flagged that there was something that wasn't quite right. What I'm doing, because there's too many to check everything, I just flip both our cards and I check the sketches to see if, we have the same buildings. So it's a quick check, but at least it's something. The pictures, a lot of them aren't loading on our system. So again, next week when he comes in, he's going to call Trio and see if there's a quick fix to fix them all at once. Tomorrow there is a representative from Maine Revenue Services coming in. He'll be here for the day in assessing, and this is something that's done annually in every municipality. They come in and they review all our paperwork from our commitment each year, and they look over our sales data, and so he'll be here for the day, and that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. Okay? All right.
Any questions?
I have a quick one.
Yep.
So I heard you mention Trio and some trouble with loading in pictures. Has Trio been a challenge up to this point? Have you had some stomach, or no, has it been okay?
No, it's okay for assessing. It's a fairly simple program for assessing. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but sometimes the more you have, the worse it is. So
The picture piece is just for frame of reference, so you'll be able to go ahead, quickly pull up a piece of the picture of the property.
A photo. It's
Yep.
and they said that's a very common issue. If it's loaded a certain way on one machine, when you go to put it on another, it doesn't connect sometimes.
Okay,
But they know how to fix it. So
great, thank you.
okay.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Item 12.
Library Department?
Good evening, members of the Town Council, Town Manager, and Lisbon citizens. My name is Diane Nadeau. I'm the Library Director, and I'm here to give just a short report on the written report you have in your packet, and just a short update. The circulation stats that you have in your packet pretty much reflect the December from 2014. However, it's interesting to note that our interlibrary loan requests were higher in 2015. We received 75 items for Lisbon citizens that included Robert Parker audiobooks, John Wayne movies, college research materials for 2 students that were home for Christmas and still had work to complete, and scrambled to get that done so they could get their grades, and we were able to help them. We got materials from area colleges for them, so we were happy about that. And always we get science fiction, fantasy, and romance titles that fill people's series that they're enjoying, so we're happy about that. We sent 66 items from our collection to area libraries that included Newport, University of Southern Maine, Bates College, Bath, Southwest Harbor, Lubec, I don't know where that is, Portland, and Bangor. So we get our stuff out there, and we're very proud of that. Our children's books, our audiobooks, some of the other stuff that we have. And so it's a wonderful program. It's reliable, and it's important to our patrons. And it's also very important to the department itself because it's an affordable alternative to purchasing materials that may be of interest to just one or two people. If you're into bonsai trees, I don't think that, every library in the state needs 12 books on bonsai trees. So it's a great system for all libraries, and it's a money saver as well. Our public computers clocked over 400 uses in December. Patrons relied on these computers for job apps, download of flight, train, and bus tickets, government forms, and their social media needs. We anticipate an increase in the use as we gear up for tax season. Many citizens now rely on our computers to take care of their state and federal taxes. The Children's Department was busy with several programs in December. Our Main Street Holiday Parade included 27 children, parents, staff, and Lisbon Police Officer Glenn Darby. They delivered bags of cookies to Bono's Sausage Kitchen, Hairs to You Salon, Down East Energy, Beauty Box Salon, Tangle Salon, East Craft and Simon Shop, Mike's Flooring, and Canton Pearl Restaurant. So they had a great time. It was successful, and it brought Lisbon families into these Main Street businesses, perhaps for the first time, or I've got to come back to this location, or reminds me I need a haircut, or something. And it also gave the businesses and their customers a good idea of what we do at the library. Oh, they offer story time. There's big kids also, there's parents, and so it just was a great community outreach. And we're all neighbors on Main Street, and I think it's important that we do that. We introduced a chess program at the library in December for the younger children. Parents and children had asked us to do this, if we could help out. There is a program in the schools, but it's for the older children. So we've targeted the younger kids who are just learning chess or want to improve their skills. And so we had 2 programs in December, and that brought 32 children and their parents. So there was a need. We stepped up, and we're proud of that. Happy to say our Legos Club is still very popular with our little engineers. They built bridges in December. They were challenged to build bridges, and so they're on display at the library. For the first time, we hosted a new club from Lisbon High School called the Lisbon Library Club that was established by their high school librarian, Jen Thompson. There's a group there that wants to do library-type events and reach out to the community, and they thought of us first, and we were honored. They decided they would read new holiday books to our little guys, so they visited, purchased new books, read to our children. We filled the children's room to capacity with 43 children and their parents that afternoon. Those 8 children read to our youngsters and then donated the books to the library. We thanked them. We had cookies, and we had a hot chocolate bar. They got to with marshmallows and all kinds of whipped creams, and so great interaction with the high school kids and with our kids, and so it was successful. We're happy to collaborate with the high school. We will do it again, and so we're planning a non-bake cooking class and then a board game class or event with the high schoolers that I'll come back and give information for. So I will keep you informed in our partnership with the high school kids. We're happy to have them. Just a brief update on our book collection, new furniture in our building. The Friends of the Library purchased 3 study carols for the library in December. Patrons had asked us for quiet, private spaces, not large tables. They have laptops and personal electronic devices. They want to study, they want to read, so we have set up 2 study carols in the back room and 1 by the public computers, and frankly, they're busy most of the time. There's always someone sitting at 1 or 2 of them throughout the day, and they appreciate a quiet, private place. So we thank the Friends for that purchase. We look forward to spring, as you all do, but for us it means that They'll work on the building. They will do the brickwork that we've been waiting for a long time. We've developed a problematic area above the large windows of our building. When there's heavy rain, or if there's going to be some melting with pending snows, I guess, there is some leakage that we're seeing coming that could be a problem for us as we get closer to this. Mrs. Barnes is aware of it. She and I looked at that area, and so is Ryan. So we're hoping for early spring to get this work moving forward. The adult nonfiction collection was successfully shifted to make use of the entire side of one large shelving unit. This allows for the continuation of the Dewey Decimal System for easier patron access to our collection. And unfortunately, I'm sad to share this with you, but I have shared it with Mrs. Barnes and the governing board. We have now truly used every inch of growth space that we have in our library. We have filled every shelf and every area without getting into problems with code where people couldn't browse. So we will get creative, but we're all aware of our spacing needs. So we're very mindful of that, and governing board is certainly working on alternatives, and Mrs. Barnes and I are on the same page of our future, but we're mindful of that. Finally, the library governing board met late last week and reviewed and approved an acceptable science equipment policy that I will bring back to the town council for your review and final approval in February. They also reviewed and approved the design of a stained glass art piece in memory of our staff member Mary Lou Schock. I will bring that to council as well, this design for your review and final approval in February as well. Tracy asked me to let you all know that we now have a bulletin board at the library that is dedicated to job openings that people can access when we're open. It lets them know what's available here in town and what the Career Center can offer them. We've posted this information on our Facebook, and people will be made aware that it's just down the stairs, and you can access that if you can't do the stairs through the children's room, and hopefully people can browse and know what job applications they need, and we're glad to help them that way. That's all I have, and I thank you for your time and interest in the library, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I have a couple. How many computers do we have?
Public computers, upstairs we have 3 for the adult room and 1 for the children's room, so 4 in all, yeah.
Who was the bragging rights for the chess? Was there a winner?
Well, I'm not sure. They're learning.
Okay.
I'm not sure. They're just.
So is the program continuing?
Yes,
or is, okay.
correct.
Okay.
Twice monthly, and yes, I can get that information to you. But
I'm just
they're
curious
fun
to see
to
who's-
watch.
Having played chess too many times with my father, who never let me win, I want to know who the competition was locally.
We see mother and
Yeah.
and children and dad and their children, and it's just wonderful to watch them in that situation where there's no electronic devices. They're thinking and just chatting, and it's wonderful to watch. Wonderful to watch.
And baby playtime group, how many are in that?
I'm going to guess that we average maybe 10 or 12 on a Tuesday.
Depending on who's available.
Exactly, and the weather, if it's cold, it's tough on those little guys. But it's a wonderful program. We have parents who share ideas about parenting or products to use. The children play safely at the library, and then it's wonderful to watch them browse and take home books to read to their children. So it's successful. We've invited them to come back on Saturdays, not as busy, 2 or 3 on Saturdays, because parents are busy and they have older children that are in sports and other things. But the Tuesday morning is successful, and we're happy to have them.
Very cool.
Bill is thinking of putting out more items for them to share with their toddlers. We have put out puppets, and so it's something they can take home. They're in little plastic bags, and they can have puppet shows. We've put out musical instruments, and parents say, thank you very much for the instruments. They're very creative at home with the little
Right.
noisy things, but it's all good stuff, that hands-on type of toys that they can take home for a week and play with.
That's it for me. Unfortunately, I'm one of the counselors that will openly admit that I've been remiss going to the library.
That's
so
okay.
I
Come
will-
visit us anytime.
I will be setting something up with you to
Absolutely.
come visit.
Please come and visit. We'd be happy to have you.
I just have a quick question. So I know you mentioned earlier some water coming in, leaking. So right now, I'm sure Town Manager Barnes has seen it, and so has Ryan. So we're not at a point where it's really concerned that there's damage happening. to
No,
any-
not at
It's
this
just
point.
more of kind of being mindful of it.
It's at the steel beam that is, the brickwork above the windows,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see where, when it rains, it falls off of that, but it's a matter, if the wind comes this way, then it'd probably be in those windows.
Okay.
We haven't had any, but we've had problems in the past, so an early spring will be in our favor.
Okay.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
and we're watching that closely. Thank you.
Okay. Next item, Paula.
Department heads' written reports?
Well, I read them all, but,
Yeah, as did I.
huh? So what do we do with this? This is kind of the first for me. Nothing?
No, move on.
Okay. Next item, Twyla.
Questions, we could list them now.
When are we going to see the audit?
Audience-
When are we going to see the audit?
Hopefully, we have a rough draft by the end of this week.
Okay.
I emailed him today.
Okay, February.
He's got to have everything done by the 31st of January.
Now, not knowing the answer, is there a presentation by the outside auditor
We'll be
to
doing it. They will be, yeah.
here?
After it's finalized, yeah.
Okay.
They can't release it, they can release a draft to Ed and I, because we have to
Right.
answer
You
some
have to
questions.
have management
but-
response. So it's-
Right, and then after that, then they'll release the regular audit, and then they'll come and do a presentation to council.
Now, two separate reports, my understanding, us and the school, two different.
It's all
So-
one audit, whether he'll have them set, I know last year, they had two separate reports,
Right.
although it's all one. They can't release the school, because it's part of the town, the school's a department of the town. They couldn't, release the school's part without releasing the town's part. Now, whether they have it all in one document, I don't know how they're gonna do that.
Okay.
I've seen it both ways. I've seen it in two
Right.
documents, but they all have to be released at the same time, and I've seen it in one document as well. So I'm not sure how
You'll
this
flesh out the
auditing,
details with the
unless you
auditors.
know, Ed, if they're gonna do it separately, or,
Where it's a municipal school, falls under Title 36, so it gets submitted as one audit to the Department of Education.
So you guys will flesh out the details, and then there'll be a presentation, and there'll
Yes.
probably be one to the school committee as well.
I think what we'll do is, when they do it, they will invite the school committee, so
Do
we
one
can do it,
presentation.
yes, yeah, do it all
Okay.
in one night, whether it's a workshop you wanna do, that way you have more time for questions.
Now, it's first year with a new firm, correct?
Right.
So what was done, you guys will flesh out the detail first
Yes.
time through anyways.
Yep.
We're all going through it.
So there'll be a rough draft by the end of this week?
For Ed and I to review. It won't be presented to the public. They will not release a rough draft, only for Ed and I to look at, because we have management responses.
Okay, but January 31st cut.
That's the drop dead
Okay.
deadline, yeah.
Ed's in the room. I see the first 6 months of his that he put together for the budget presentation. I'd like to afford him a few minutes to maybe give us an idea on some of the financials, any key things that he'd like to address.
Actually, I'm scheduled for the next meeting.
Okay, we can do
Okay.
it then too, Ed.
So I'd rather put off the financials until the next meeting, where we have more time to go into it in depth. I can say that there is nothing that is alarming me at this point regarding where we are.
I'll take it.
So-
I'll take it. Right on.
Okay.
Good news is short.
So, so let's plan on the next meeting, and we'll go down through the major lines, and, I'll point out the major variances and where I think they are, okay?
Are you still looking for feedback from us on what we would like to see? I know I
Yeah,
provided some
really-
direction.
I would. What I would like to know is what most interests you beyond the budget, okay? Are you interested in cash? Are you interested in the status of the receivables? Would you rather have a segmented report with various indicators than just budget to actual? There's more to what goes on in the town's finances than just how much you've spent and how much you've taken in. I mean, 'cause it doesn't even address, it does not begin to address what's going on the town's balance sheet, which is as critical as anything else.
Right. Okay. I'll ponder that for sure and see what I can get you. Thank you, sir.
Next item, Twyla?
Is audience participation in response to new items?
Don?
I'm Don Fellows from the village side of town. I'd like to tell you about a brief but spectacular moment, and that spectacular moment would be Thursday, January 28th. The planning board, which I'm a member of, is holding a public workshop, not a public hearing, on possibilities or probabilities for zoning amendments in the next year. This is kind of a follow-up, and basically is a follow-up to the master plan development. So its intention is to be mostly non-residential areas that are in the corridor area of 196. But specifically, there's some areas that have been talked about so far, and they are in the downtown Lisbon Falls area, near the Railroad Tavern and near Davis Street. In Lisbon Falls, just beyond and around the Campus Commons. In the center of town, in the Lisbon Center area, the diversified development area, we're kind of interested in finding out more what people think about that. And in Village Street for downtown development possibilities. So those are some of the areas that we want to talk about, but we're really interested in hearing what everybody else thinks. And this is the chance, and it's not about your house, it's about the commercial areas primarily, and not commercial, but the corridor areas, non-residential areas. But it does affect and can potentially affect how business develops in town. So we're interested in helping the town out. We're hoping that we get enough participation at this event to give us some better direction. It'll be hosted by the planning board, but facilitated by Amanda Bunker, who's our contract planner. And she does a pretty good job of making those presentations. So, and we're really interested. I can't say this enough. We'd like to see counselors as well as the public and their non-official people in town showing up. Thank you.
Next item, Dot, go, come on.
I wouldn't want to disappoint you. Upcoming budget meetings. In the past, we had a budget advisory board that the town councilors decided that they didn't need, and a finance committee was established. To my knowledge, they haven't met since March. At least that's the last minutes that were published on the town's website. There are only 3 active members as of now that's on the town's website. Larry Fillmore, Charlie Smith, and Norma Wells. I'm wondering if you're going to be continuing with a finance committee and whether they're going to be involved in any budget deliberations. Thank you.
Go ahead, come on. Unless you want me to, I can tell you a complaint myself, but.
Well, I complain myself, yeah. Natalie Thompson, 15 Pinewoods Road, Lisbon, Maine. I personally don't walk to school, but I know a lot of my friends do, and recently with the snow coming down, they have to walk on the side of the road and not on the sidewalks because the sidewalks aren't plowed before school starts, and it's just like a safety concern, so I'm just bringing it to your attention.
Any certain areas?
Like, on the, like, path to school, so from, like, downtown Lisbon Falls to the school.
Lisbon Falls to the school, okay.
Yeah.
Not on the walking path.
You're talking about 196 walking up from like Big Apple
yeah.
from school, from
like the
schools,
sidewalks,
yeah.
because they're not being plowed before
Yeah.
school starts on snowy days, so they're ending up walking on the side of the road and when cars going by and.
Kids coming up 196 on the sidewalks.
I think we can get a bunch of shovels out, give them to the kids as they go in the
Power 'em.
Right, that's a good idea.
Thought, just a thought.
You check
Goes
on
with-
it.
goes with
Natalie's the
wellness.
right person to ask too, so we'll get her involved.
I explained to her before the meeting that we are short-staffed in Public Works, and usually right now it's, I believe, unless they've done something different, that it's when they get done their plow route, one of the route drivers will take the.
Well, we,
I've seen Jim Carville, who did it last year sporadically, has been out, and again, I've seen him,
Has he?
so he doesn't work actually for the town, but for that job only.
Okay. But
They were in front of my house on Sunday.
Yeah, they were working Sunday. I saw them on 196 when I was coming up, and they were working, so I know. You know,
That's what it was kind of where we're looking at in that regard, because when they're coming out of here, you're dumping right out on 196, so that was an assumption on my part.
we'll look into it for you. And as far as Dot, as far as your comeback, I believe that we did away with the Finance Committee last year. It is no longer in existence.
That's why you haven't seen anything since March.
Yeah,
I'll take down the names on the website. That's confusing.
yeah,
I
okay,
didn't
the
notice
website,
it was there.
Twyla's gonna take the names off the website.
I'm curious because most towns and cities do have a budget advisory board. I've watched on TV, live TV, Lewiston and Auburn, city meetings, council meetings, and, when it comes to budget, they always have budget advisory board that participates. And, I just, as a former member, I found it very enlightening, rewarding to be involved and to have other people have give an opinion, another committee on the budget. I just think that it's something that should be done again. It's my opinion.
Thank you, Dot. Anybody, any questions?
I got no questions.
Next item, Twyla?
Counselor Communications?
Yes, anybody out there?
I got a couple.
Yep.
Remind folks again about Winterfest out to Beaver Park, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. For Mark and Positive Change Lisbon. Fernley Rochelle is the contact if you're actually able to donate any time associated with that to help with the event, or just interested to actually get out there with your family. Now that snow has actually arrived and the winter is actually back, it's shaping up to be a pretty cool event. So find out and get out there. The other one, the Step the Truck food drive is going on Sunday. That is running from 12 to 3 p.m., so everybody be home for the Patriots game. Snow in the forecast. If there's a cancellation associated with that, Tracy Austin assures us that she will let everybody know by Friday. The event will be happening the following Sunday on the 31st. So those are my two.
And I do have a couple as well. So I've seen a few questions or concerns come up about why the town of Lisbon doesn't plow the walking path so that folks can use it in the winter. I think there's been some confusion about that. I don't think that we we ever want to go ahead and plow that path, I think the snow chiefs have been very gracious in taking over and grooming that trail so that snowmobiles can use it. I've seen some concerns and questions about that, so I don't think we'll ever probably take that on in the near future anyway. I think it's best served just to leave it as is. We wouldn't want to damage the path and shorten its life, because I think we all enjoy using it in the spring and winter and fall, summer and fall months. So just so I can get that out there so the people of town know that the town probably won't be clearing that path. We've just been very lucky, though. It's been so warm this winter that we've been able to use it all the way through December this year. And the other one was, there's a father-daughter dance coming up, I believe, oh gosh, I don't know, the February. So I think it's the second Saturday in February, forgive me, I don't remember the date.
Calendar's right in front of you.
Staring me in the face, right there, thanks, buddy. So yeah, that looks like it is the 13th Saturday of February, and that's going to be at the MTM, has been the last few years. Great event, so fathers, grab you gals and bring them down. Thanks.
Anybody else? I've got a couple of things. Town of Lewiston, I just saw it on the news, and I think maybe we ought to look into this with our insurances for the summer on the walking path, since it's a town-owned thing. It's hoverboards. Ought to just discuss it. We may not end up doing anything with it, but it should be at least brought to everybody's attention. And Ed has been wanting, and he doesn't just want it, he needs it. The town needs it, a new computer system. And since he wasn't going to be here and I was going to fumble through it, but since you're here, you want to get up and talk to us about it, Ed, please?
Well, thank you, number one, for inviting me to stay and talk about it. You're right, it is a need. It's not a desire. I wish we were in a position where we could desire it and had the funds to meet the desire. Right now, again, we are crumbling with the system that we have every day on the other side of assessing. Okay, and if you think about where Kathy is, she has a single function module which takes care of assessing. It does it very nicely. I will not deny that TRIO has a very good assessing program and code enforcement program. On the other side, though, once everything leaves assessing and comes over to live government, right, where we're making it go financially every day, the system really is beginning to degrade more and more every day. We spend a lot of time, I spend more time trying to figure out what's going on with the system. We have an issue right now where something just disappeared off the map in TRIO that affects our budget for this next year and will affect how we present our budget to you folks looking back to 15 and moving forward to 16, and no one really knows how to fix it at TRIO. It's not just a matter of, well, we'll force it back in, because if we try to force it back in, you know, it has a ripple effect down through the financial statements. Diane and I had the opportunity to sit through a presentation on January 4th with the folks from Munis to take a look at the system to make sure, number one, would it meet our requirements for tax administration? Once it leaves the assessing office and we have to bill and receive funds, lien, go through the process of foreclosure if necessary. We found that the system did meet our needs there adequately. The nice thing about it is we could call up Chief Warumbo's file and we would know everything about Chief Warumbo in one place in the Munis system. We'd know what his outstanding bills are on his sewer. We'd know what his outstanding bills are for personal property if he has it. We would know his outstanding bills for property tax. We would know his registration history, has he paid his excise tax. Someday, if the water department jumped on, we'd even know if he'd paid his water bill. So we would have a complete profile on all of our citizens here in Lisbon as to the services that they consume and how they're meeting their obligations. You know, that's one end. As we look ahead, you know, there are some things that we don't have right now that are very critical. We don't have a fixed asset system. Everything is being handled on an Excel spreadsheet. We don't have a good handle on our infrastructure here in town. The nice thing about the tax program and the bridge that they have from assessing to tax, it can be used in conjunction with a GIS system if we so choose, but we can spot where are all our manholes, where are our sewer drains, where are our fire hydrants, where are our critical light poles. We can pretty much have an engineering aid that would help not only on, you know, administer tax, but would also help the Public Works, Fire Department, and Police Department. Project and grant accounting is an issue for us right now. Everything is set up as a reserve pretty much in the general fund. Right now, I'm trying to map out a program to try to move it over to a separate grants and projects account or fund so that we can better manage it. We spend an awful lot of time on payroll. I can't remember how many hours Jody and I added up on the payroll effort for the town each week, and especially on a bi-weekly basis, going through time cards, going through time sheets, collating the information, where in fact we could have employees putting their own time data in, goes to the supervisor, supervisor reviews it, sends it on to the payroll office. The only thing Jody has to do is deal with the exceptions. If you need to make a change in you know, your address or some other part of your profile, that's allowable through the ESS, and then again, it can go to Jody directly for her to review it, approve it, and move it on. We would have a true accounts receivable system. Right now, we really don't have a good accounts receivable where you can separate things out as far as trying to manage your governmental your intergovernmentals and receivables from folks outside of government. It allows you to funnel receivables from your tax systems, being the sewer system and the property tax system, into one receivable. So again, you have a profile of what does an individual really own the town for all of the obligations he or she may have. The other good thing is through the central property file, not only can we plot our town's infrastructure and some of the things that are non-specifically owned, but we can port over from the assessing system to the tax system, billing and receivables, zoning information, lot sizes, GIS location, so that on the property tax side of things and the administration collection, we have a complete picture of what an individual business or individual owns here in town. Cashiering system, which again is kind of like a funnel, one place where all the cash can be dumped through, and we can report out and see what all our various lines are doing at once as far as cash, what's going on in collecting cash. One of the big productivity things that I see with Munis is the ability to store all documents electronically, so that we reduce the amount of paper that we're producing. So if I have a purchase order, I can build a file for a specific purchase, and I've got the purchase order, the invoice, the receiving document, and the payment information, all electronically that can be called up. I don't know how many times Diane, myself, or Brenda, or somebody in the office, we're running back and forth to take care of, look at paper documents where we could both be at our desks working and look at the same issue at the same time. I think that's a really critical feature that we would have. Financial statement builder. Right now, Munis has a good system for building our financial statements at the end of the year. And if you think about it, as much time goes in by the auditors in producing financial statements as auditing the financial statements. I'd rather have them spend their money more time auditing and poking at us than I would having them construct the financial statements and then turn around and audit their own work. I mean, as it is, you know, this is a problem for a lot of towns and cities, so it's, you know, not germane or not just particularly here in Lisbon. These are some of the areas where I really think that, number one, we could really get down to what is the optimal cost to run the general government operations of the town. Obviously, when you think of $87,000 a year, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you think about what you're getting the software. You're getting 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. support. Okay? We're getting guaranteed uptime. Okay? They have to guarantee that the system will be available at least 97% of the time, or 98% of the time, hopefully 100%. If in fact they slip below the 97, they owe us money. Okay? They owe us 3% of the monthly bill. If they slip below 95, they owe us 4% back on the monthly bill. When I look at the staffing that they have for troubleshooting, it's a really robust staff. They're local. They're a Maine company. Their tax system is developed with the state of Maine in mind. So the other really good features of software as a service are today with Trio, if an upgrade gets pushed out, I've got to stop everything in the middle of the day, kick everybody off the system, download the upgrade or the fix, load up the fix, open it up. Does the fix look like it's going to work? And then put everybody back to work. At least once or twice a week we get errors on the database structure. Everybody's got to get off the system. Ed runs around with his head cut off trying to figure out, can I manage it here? Do I need to call Trio? Do I need to call SimQuest? With Munis, they're responsible for the database. They're responsible for pushing out the enhancements at night. Okay, so we don't have to be bothered with them. They're responsible for any disaster recovery. The only thing we have to know is how to turn on our computers and make them work. Okay, they even provide storage for our data included, and they have off-site storage as well. You know, when we looked at what do we need for a solution, we understood that human resources in today's government world are very scarce. And you folks have to make the decisions about where can I best apply the next person we hire if we're going to hire someone. And obviously, it's probably in public protection. It's either going to be the police department, fire department, or public works to plow the sidewalk in the morning. Okay? Finance department, we understand, we're back office. Okay? Even if I hired a person, and Diane and I were talking about this the other day, the plagues that we have now are not going to go away. Okay? So we're better off to leverage our money, I think, and bring on this system. Systems don't get sick most of the time. They have a better record than people. They don't take vacations. They don't need comp time hours. They don't call you up at 7:30 in the morning and say, geez, I really can't make it in today. I don't know why, but I just can't get there. So, you know, we're really looking at a resource that over the years, while it's expensive in the first 7 years, you get to the end of that 7th year, you can either assume the license and pay the maintenance and pay the storage fee for data if you want, or you can re-up at a lesser cost, again, because your capital investment is already there, and continue on as software as a service. The good thing is, as software as a service, you're always on the most current version of the platform, right? So that's my pitch. The system cost $87,000 a year. If we were to hire somebody, think about what it would cost. You'd have to hire another accountant. We'd really need an accountant, not a bookkeeper, all right? $16 an hour, let's say, to start. What is the typical overhead? Well, I figured out on $16 an hour, it could run as much as $13.13. Now you're up to $27, $28 an hour. So, there really is not as big a gap as what you might think. Plus, we're getting a number of tools, okay, that amount to $37,000 of the $87,000 that we don't have, and that's where our biggest weaknesses are right now. It's keeping track of our fixed assets. We really don't have a good handle on the town's infrastructure, how it's performing, where, well, we do know where it is for the most part, okay? But, again, it's either that or we'd have to hire a fleet of people. So, where we are with Munis is I've been kind of, I don't want to say stringing them along, but stringing them along. And we are at the top of the queue. If I don't commit to something, most immediately we go to the bottom of the queue. We have come up with a 101-day implementation plan, which means I need most of February, March, April, May, and June. It will not pay for us to try to implement in the middle of a fiscal year. So that puts us 2 years away if we don't jump on this now. And I know it's expensive. I know it probably comes as a bad time for you folks, but it really is a critical need for the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll open the floor up for discussion.
I personally think it's a good idea. I think Ed has done a wonderful job with what he has to work with. So you can only imagine how much better he could do if he was given the right equipment he needs to do the job. And I've talked to him before about this, and being self-employed, time is money. And when you're losing time running around chasing and trying to fix stuff, over a period of time, it's going to cost you a lot of money anyway. So I know it won't pay for itself overnight, but in time it will. I think it's a well worth investment for the town.
Mr. Ward, are you using this system in Lewiston?
We certainly are. My question to Ed was, are you looking to greenlight everything July 1, all the resources we talked about, or are we phasing in?
We will be greenlighting the general ledger.
Right.
Okay, and payroll. Those are my two highest priorities. Next comes tax administration because obviously, you know, that's a critical piece because in July we're already looking forward to the next billing. So I would say property tax, excise tax, GL, and payroll have got to be coming out of the chute on July 1st.
And those are fairly reasonable. I mean, in that regard, as I outlined to you when you asked me the question, we staggered payroll because it was a much larger conversation bringing the school on board and trying to get one centralized chart of account, which caused the delay in Lewiston. But I agree with you in that regard, that those two need to happen. The infrastructure piece that you mentioned is it's a good benefit associated with that, but there's a considerable amount of legwork to get that inventory. I just sat in a go-to meeting today for majority of the day on just that one topic, and it quickly unravels when you get to be the fixed asset guy, unfortunately. My question to you, in your implementation, what's the preliminary estimate of out-the-door costs that are once again not budgeted this go-round?
Most immediately, it's approximately 24,000 that we would be looking at between now and implementation.
Which is reasonable. Which is reasonable in that regard. Now, have they talked to you anything on scanners?
Yes, I have one scanner budgeted for the cash drawer.
And that includes, that's in that 24 grand that you talked about?
Yes, so what I have is the handheld model 1900G.
Yeah, they only supply it's a workhorse. It's a good piece of
Yeah,
equipment.
and with that also comes the USB reader, and we've got a printer as well that goes along with
Right.
that.
For the general public listening, it matters to actually be able to make your payroll and everything you're talking about work, to have the hardware behind it that's not in that cost. And that covers the install and the migration in that regard too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Those are the other pieces, and that's the reality. You need to get ahead of your fiscal year to be able to make this effective, knowing fully well that it isn't actually, once again, something that's actually budgeted. Yes, to answer your question, sir, and a much long-winded answer.
That's fine, that's what I wanted to hear.
I definitely will. Ed's right there. I got something for you. I just want to kind of get a point of reference to the folks who might be watching. With Trio, I know we had talked about obviously the upside to all the Munis benefits that will come with that system. Now, point of reference for Trio, what are their support hours, just so we can use that as a frame of reference?
6 p.m., I believe.
So 6 p.m.
If they're
fine.
outside. 5?
They open at 8:30, and I think they're open till 5.
Till 5, and that's Monday through Friday, no weekend support hours, correct?
Right.
Is that the same with Munis as well, no weekend support? Not that we're here on the weekends, but just yeah.
There's the regular support hours are from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Okay. However, I was assured that there is somebody on call in case.
Yeah. Also, with Munis being right down the road here in Falmouth as opposed to Trio, is it Trio in Bangor? Is that where they're located?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a little bit easier for us if they need to actually bring us a piece of equipment. They could be here pretty quickly and pretty responsive. I'm sure they must have contractual guidelines too if we sign up with them to respond to our trouble tickets or any sort of requests that we have.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure they have
It's a really
24-hour
good-
turnaround to emails and doors. I mean, I'm ballparking what the industry standard might be. I'm sure it could be better. They could have hour responses to emails. I don't know, but
They have a staggered response based on the priority that the user assigns to the problem. So in other words, if you're dead in the water, it's an immediate, okay? If it's something that is critical but is not impacting operations right away, that's like a 24-hour thing, and then it keeps going down from there.
So that being stated, in this situation we have with Trio, I'm sure that it's been, and I'm not trying to heap on them, I'm just trying to use that as a point of reference, that the responsiveness of the support has been less than, and this is a pretty critical matter for us.
Right. I had an issue last week that I came across when I was trying to run the initial budget worksheets for the department heads. So I talked to them last week, and they were not sure how to fix it, and they said they'd have to get back to me on Tuesday. They did this morning. what they told me, I knew in my mind wasn't going to work because I couldn't see how it would work. So I did part of the fix, and then I couldn't figure out the rest of it. I thought, this just isn't going to work. So I tried calling them back. I was on the phone waiting for somebody to pick up. 29 minutes, and I finally hung up. Then I waited an hour, and I tried again, and I was on for 10 minutes before somebody. So I walked through what I thought my concerns were, why it wouldn't work, and they agreed with me. So they've uploaded the data. The person who I talked to was fairly new, so she needed to talk to somebody else, and I still haven't had a response back. And it's a deleted account is what happened. For some reason, there's an account deleted that had a revenue figure attached to it, which isn't showing up in the new budget I'm trying to work on. I don't have that current year revenue figure in there, and I don't know what happened to it. I ran a report a week or so ago, just a report, and right in the middle of the report, I got an error message that said, account deleted. I have no idea what account got deleted. It's just running a report. You're not doing anything. You're not inputting anything. You're just asking a report to run. And it gave me an error message, error number, and it just said account deleted. And to this day, I have no idea. It just error message 3127 account deleted. I don't know what that means.
Trio was unable to support at this point to
No.
advise why that has happened. Okay, great. That's all I wanted.
But there's a lot of quirky things that are going on, but you got to understand the size community we have here and the amount of work that's going through the software system. I truly don't think this software was designed for a municipality of our size with all the transactions where we're part of the school, so we've got all that revenue that we're dealing with. We've got the sewer bills, we've got the tax bills, we've got a lot of transactions that are going on. We're actually taxing the system is what we're doing, and there isn't a week that goes by that one of us isn't on the phone to Trio because we have an issue. So, and it's crazy because just sitting in on that meeting with Munis to see what that software can do that our software here cannot do. But we're spending an awful lot of time.
Is the school using Munis software right now?
No, they're not on Munis. They're Tyler Technologies, but a different platform than Munis.
Okay, that's fine.
It is scalable.
Yep.
You know, simple things like if you're researching an issue on a transaction, in Trio you've got to get completely out of it. Think about you've got a wall of ledgers. It's like, okay, I've got to take one ledger out, look at it, back on the shelf, go to a different ledger, look at it, put it away, then take out the ledger you're working on and do the transaction. Whereas in Munis, if you're having a research issue on a transaction, on the side you've got a menu. You go over there, you open up, you take a look, and you go back to what you're doing. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, how long have you guys been having problems with this? Roughly.
Quite a long time. See, I've been more involved in it since I became the treasurer. And because of the turnover in the front office here, I've been taking a more active role in the tax collections. Prior to that, I don't know how much I wasn't aware of it, but since I've been doing it, we've had a lot of issues. A lot of issues. I mean, I'll give you an example on some of the sewer accounts. And I don't know if anybody ever picked up on this before, but Ed and I have picked up on it. You'll have a transaction where somebody will come in and pay on an account. It'll be in your cash receipting, but somehow it'll be deleted out of the account like nobody actually paid. And we have a report we can run. We get to see that there's an issue. We can't fix it here. It's got to be fixed in the background, and only Trio can do a fix for that. And sometimes it takes 2 weeks. Well, that's an issue if you're getting ready to do tax liens or foreclosures, and it shows up in the account as not even being paid. They're going to be getting a foreclosure notice. Right. So I've had to really come down hard a couple of times with Trio to get them to work faster for me because I was going through the foreclosure process on sewer liens. And it's happened, about 5 times, right, Ed? And we don't know why, and Trio can't explain why that's happening. I don't understand that, and it's nothing, and we don't know why it's doing that. It'll be just, in the middle of a transaction, there'll be a glitch, but it'll still show up in your cash receipting so that your cash matches, but in the account, it won't show up, like they didn't even pay anything.
Recent as this morning, I had a transaction for about $1.4 million. I hit save on the transaction, and as Diane says, sometimes the thing will cough right in the middle of the transaction. So I hit save. Again, I had to go look at how I wanted to divide it up and what accounts I wanted to hit. I went back to pick up the transaction. I couldn't find it. So I had to start all over again. I checked on this cross-check report. Tomorrow, when the posting happens, I'll probably find it somewhere.
But it's stuff like that that shouldn't be happening.
I think I'm pretty comfortable with, I
So-
wanted to put it out there so that the folks at home could get
But
an
I get
understanding
it.
of what our
Oh.
folks here in the town office are working against.
Water department as well. Shelley also goes through Trio, and she has.
That was my next question. Is there any other business partners that are interested in possibly exploring this together? What about the water department, Ed?
Well, I'm working with it.
Okay.
I think that's a question for the commissioners down there. You know, Shelley is not in a position to, is not really in a position to make that decision. I know that she had looked at Munis some years ago, and she's very intrigued with it. I can't speak for her, but they would be the perfect partner because we are
It's both sides.
using the utility billing system, and that would, again, that would bring the whole profile together on general government, so to speak.
Yeah,
gonna set up
our liaison will take care of that one.
The thing with that is when we have to purchase the utility package in order to do our sewer side.
You're only
of it.
buying it for 50% of the equation at that point, so it makes
Right.
business sense,
So,
absolutely.
and that includes the water, and if they decide they want to, they would just be another user. They wouldn't have to go out and buy the sub. They would have to pay for at least half of what we're paying, but they wouldn't have to go out and buy it independently. They would just be another user as.
And at the
other
end of the day,
department.
Lewis and Lisbon taxpayers would not be paying for two softwares. so you
That's
could-
right, exactly.
We just want to make sure.
But it will have the capability if
Right.
they so choose to come on and use the
We
same
confirm
software.
the details with Munis too to make sure, and obviously if they're just a user, then from a support perspective, they're not going to be left in the lurch, if you will, if
Right.
an issue comes up, so.
At
So-
the next meeting, I am going to ask, and I've mentioned it to Ed, I'm going to ask him if Bill will come in and talk to Ed about this and see what we can do with it. I don't think I can't say for sure, but I do know there are.
At least it's a
problems.
discussion. At least this is discussion.
Right, it's a discussion.
What do you need from us to get to this, move this?
We're up against a pretty tight timeline from what I
Right, we gotta
understand
go
from Ed here.
fairly quick on it.
Yeah.
I need your permission to ink an agreement with Tyler Technologies to get going in February, with the understanding that I'll bring the
Almost there.
contract back to you guys next week, shoot a copy over to Dan Stockford, go through it with Diane, make sure that we've got the right mods, and go for it, I guess.
So from your perspective then, does this need to be on the next meeting's
Yes.
meeting?
Yes.
So you guys would have the ability to flush out details with specifics to make it a vote?
Yeah, you'd need to vote on it on
Right.
the next meeting, February 2nd,
Yep,
so that we can
And-
move forward.
right.
I hate to say it, but once again, can you go to the well to give us an idea of where 24 grand that's not coming from?
I'll do my best.
Yeah, and that's, it'll be very timely, because I
Do we have any town resource officers that we can?
Not Bill?
I mean,
No.
we have money in our technology budget. If we're gonna go through and do something like this, I would hold off on some of our technology purchases.
To
unless it
redirect, to
was
be able to,
redirect it to this
Some-
and only use that on hardware that, if we absolutely have to for the remainder of this year.
okay.
They'll take up some of it. and we'll
I
just have
would like
find
to see
some
that
other-
to get the details moving forward so we don't miss a window of opportunity, because I know Ed has spent a considerable amount of time. He's asked several times what I can direct, and he's got the right resources, so I'd like to at least hear it out.
End of the day, it's going to improve efficiencies, right?
Yes, I mean, it definitely will improve efficiencies. I'm not going to stand there and tell you it's going to save us a ton of money.
He did not say savings, he said efficiencies.
Yeah, no. Well,
Right.
if you're able to do the job that you need to do without having the constant interruptions to be able to be productive and increase those efficiencies, that's where I'm driving.
Time is money, no matter how you look at it.
Right. And it's something that's scalable, so as we grow as a community, and maybe we can actually partner with the school at one point and get us all on the same page, and that only helps us all become more.
School, the water department,
Right.
whoever else we can pick
One
up.
basket of good, folks.
Yeah.
One basket of goods.
So next for the next meeting then?
Mm-hmm.
Can I spring form from that to another?
Yeah,
sure. Going into your department head meeting tomorrow, is there any key things that you're going to be presenting? Because what I'd like to see is, are there any other needs out there, and what's the process that we're going to get them ultimately in a capital improvement plan? To give me some backup on that.
Obviously, the capital, anything that they need, they absolutely need for this year will go into the capital improvement plan, and then we will include that in the budget as well.
Okay.
So they're going to be doing two things. They're going to be working on their operating budget, and they're also going to be looking at their capital improvement plan and what we feel we can fund in this upcoming year. We're going to look at the things that they absolutely need if something needs to be replaced, and also the capital improvement plan will be anything that we're putting aside incrementally to purchase later on in future years. So they'll be playing two kind of roles, the capital improvement plan, but they're going to be working on both.
Right.
And they're going to be what their needs are. They're going to need to budget their needs.
What is the process from a newcomer's perspective, that the CIP, how does that evolve into a finished document that we ultimately see now in the process? I see the presentation of the capital improvement, but I'm assuming there's several key pieces, and this is what we're ultimately bringing to council.
Right. You'll see
How does that evolve?
You'll see the capital improvement plan as a separate document down the road, but in the budget, whatever we're going to fund this year, you'll see that in the budget. It'll be connected to the capital improvement plan. So they're going to be, I don't know how to explain it, but.
Well, I get that piece in that regard. Where I was going with it is, how do we get a true basket of goods that's ultimately going to be what the capital improvement plan is for this year's window and the extended window, next year, the years following? How does that piece come to play? What gets how does the priority get set?
It's going to be determined by the department heads.
Department heads.
Pretty much the department heads, because they know what their needs are.
Okay.
Still, you gotta remember
Right.
too, that we have the final say.
I agree. I
Exactly.
agree with that process in that regard. The fact is, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're the ones that set the budget
Right.
in that regard. Where I was going with this is, if I'm not mistaken, it's not the second item that we've actually, as a council, approved in this coming year that wasn't really on the CIP. I'd like to see a full list of those kind of projects. I wouldn't want to have them pulled off just so we could actually know what potential other items are out there. I can reference the roof for this discussion is the fact that they have real components. I'd like to have a clear understanding of where we are.
Okay.
Because it is. I mean, we do have to play the priority, but what I don't want to be sitting here is in the future years actually at a whim, or as something comes up that we're constantly looking at something that actually is not in a budget document, that we're having you to actually go back and find the funding sources for. That's not good business either. You know, so put a real plan together that's actually worth the paper it's printed on. I know you've heard it from me associated with our capital improvement plan last year. I'd like to see it be a real document.
And, you know, and the plan will have specific items on it too, but I also see the plan having us set aside monies for
Right.
for our infrastructure needs for these emergencies, like the roof, that we could tap into.
Right.
Yeah, that's the ideal. That's the ideal
That's
situation
exactly
to
what we're-
have, so
right.
when these things present themselves, we're not in a scramble and
Exactly.
where we're gonna rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
We're gonna be like, this is exactly why we have this fund set aside. And then it becomes a matter of how do we wanna spend this money? We wanna stagger it, can we afford to pay for it all? Because we don't wanna just go in there, build this fund up, have one crisis, pay it all off, be right back in square one again. I think
Exactly.
that,
So it's,
smart.
the plan will have a combination of things
Okay.
attached to it.
Now, educate me real quick. What is the, where does the planning board fit into this structure associated with that, and how does that play out in this process?
According to the charter, they have to approve the capital improvement plan, so
So they are
once
a business partner to this group
Yes.
here, so anything that we're getting, they'll be seeing as well,
They
too.
will, right. And
Okay.
they're gonna, you'll see it first, and then it'll go on to the planning board.
Okay.
Can I just say one thing?
Please, I was hoping you would.
The purpose of the planning board looking at it is strictly for the comprehensive plan purposes. To see that anything on the capital improvement plan does not interfere with the future growth
Strategic.
plan for the
Strategic,
town.
right.
That's the whole purpose. So we pass on it, or we don't pass on it, but typically, most things that are in the capital improvement plan we
Hit
haven't
that.
ran anything yet that caused a problem.
Okay,
So
that's,
it's a quick
that's,
process.
that's what I needed to hear. Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
Just wanna say thanks, Ed, for.
Oh, yeah,
giving us
thanks,
all that
Ed.
info.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay, I was gonna bring up something, but it's been along. The other two items were much more involved, and so I'm gonna say next item, Twyla.
Is to adjourn.
I
You
need a
have
motion.
your
I'll
counselor-
make the motion.
I need a second.
7-0.
No, does it need anything? Does it need anything from us? Short stack of hundreds? He doesn't need anything but our go Ed.
You, first meeting back, you're like, let's get out of here.
Your accountant fit in fives are the best.
Roger, you want to talk about